Okay, team, so this video is on the quotient rule, and when we are done, you should be able to solve problems like what we see on the top of the page. So we have this function, y, and it's automatically scarier, right, because it has a fraction bar in it, and we want to find the derivative, dy dx. Okay? So even though it has a scary fraction in it, this is an algorithm just like the product rule, which you guys crushed. So we'll have an easy time with this one as well. So we need to know the rule. And the rule is, if I have f of x over g of x, so two functions that I'm dividing, quotient, by the way, means division. You guys knew that though. And I'm taking the derivative. I want, and this one's a little trickier to memorize, I want f prime times g minus g prime times f. The reason this one is trickier is because there's subtraction involved, so order matters. Product rule, you can pretty much do it which way, and as long as you have the derivative and the original function, you're going to get it okay. It's f prime times g minus g prime times f all over g of x squared. Okay? So the derivative of the top times the bottom minus the derivative of the bottom times the top, and then the bottom squared. Okay? So this is the algorithm. For the purposes of this class, you're going to memorize it. If you want to see the proof involves like the limit definition. I can show it to you, but you don't need to know it for the AP exam. Okay? So let's go through an example. So to start, it's helpful to write out each part. So I'm going to say f of x, and I'm going to be lazy and just write f, which is fine for your work, is 3 minus 5x squared, or x cubed I should say rather, right? F prime then is the derivative of f, so the derivative of 3 is 0, 3 times 5 is 15, and it's negative. Then I subtract 1 from 3, so x squared is my f prime. G is the bottom, 1 minus 2x. G prime is the derivative of g. Derivative of 1 is 0. Derivative of 2x is negative 2. Okay? So those are all my pieces. And then I just follow the model. So f prime, negative 15x squared, times g, 1 minus 2x, and then g prime times f, so negative, and you have to be careful with your signs here, right, because there's a minus in the model. So minus 2 g prime, and then f, 3 minus 5 x cubed. So that's the top. And then the bottom, g of x squared. So g is 1 minus 2x. Okay. And then we just grind it out. So we want to simplify. So often you can get away with not simplifying these, but in this case it says simplified form. And this, by the way, is my derivative dy dx, right? This is squared on the bottom. Okay. Now it would be a great time to pause and just double check that you've followed how I got all this. I'm just plugging it in as I see it based on the model, and make sure you follow. Okay, so then I'm going to simplify, so distribute, right, for this first set of terms. So I get negative 15x squared minus a negative, so plus, right, 30x cubed. And then I'm just going to cancel out these negatives and then distribute a positive 2, so I get plus 6, and then minus 10x. So notice the signs here are really tricky. Double check here and make sure I didn't make any mistakes here too. On the bottom, I square it. You can Punnett square it if you want. I'm going to get 1, then I'm going to get minus 4x in the middle, and then I'm going to get plus 4x squared. Okay. Then the last thing I'm going to do is just combine any like terms that I see, and I just see one set, right? And we can be real proper, and we can rewrite it in standard form too. So I'm going to put 20x cubed first. So that's these two terms, right? And then minus 15x squared plus 6, and then the bottom I'll say 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. Okay, so that is the quotient rule. That is dy dx, the derivative of y. Okay, so other than the model, so other than this, everything we just did was algebra that you already knew how to do. Okay, so all that's new is this set of steps, and then a lot of the brain power is just simplifying. Okay, so a lot of the brain power is stuff you already know how to do. As always, take a second to check your understanding before you move on. We have one more type of problem that I'm going to show you guys. It's similar to what we did in class. So that looks like this. So we have a chart, and we want h prime of 1. Notice our chart has f of x and g of x, and then the derivatives at a particular x, right? This is super AP aligned. These types of problems are really common, like multiple choice problems. Okay. So it tests the quotient rule without making you do all that algebra, which is why it's like kind of a useful testing tool. So our quotient rule, and I'll rewrite it, is our derivative of our quotient is equal to f prime times g minus g prime times f all over g squared. Okay, you're definitely going to want to have that written down as you go through these problems. It will help you memorize it. So then I just plug everything in. So make sure you follow the table and watch your signs. So that becomes f prime is -6 from the table, g is -1, minus g prime is 4 from the table, f is 9, and then g squared, well g is -1, so that's -1 squared. Okay, that's all there is to it. Make sure you followed that. I'm just pulling the numbers out of the table as I read them out of the formula, right? Then I just simplify, so I get 6 minus 36 over 1. Make sure -1 squared is +1. Your calculator lies to you, right? 6 minus 36 is -30 over 1, which is -30. That's it. That's our derivative at x equals 1, our derivative of h. So we call this, we say h prime of 1 equals -30. Make sure you pay attention to these. I mean, it'll tell you if you goof. It will also ask you for product rule problems here. So this is a good practice for switching between the two. You need to have them memorized for the AP exam, as well as a plethora of other derivatives rules, which we're continuing to work on. As always, reach out if you need anything. We'll see you next week.